Hey folks, thanks for joining us today on the show. We're going to have a good one. Dr. A.J. Tarpoff is here. He is the Beef Extension Veterinarian for the state of Kansas, and we're going to talk about steroid implant administration. It's something that we do every day, and the return on investment is about $50 to $60 every time we put a steroid implant in the ear, so we need to make sure that we do it right. Dr. Tarpoff is going to talk about the tools we need and how to put them in there and how to keep them clean and keep them from getting infected. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with becoming a regular guest, Dr. A.J. Tarpoff. And Dr. Tarpoff is our Beef Extension Veterinarian here for the state of Kansas and beyond. He's over in the Department of Animal Science and Industries, and we are tickled to death for you to block out some time and come in here and talk to us about implants.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to come on in.
All right.
So I think to start with, I think we should really talk over what are implants. Steroids, okay? We hear this all over the news, all over social media, but I think there's a lot of misperceptions of what these products are and how we use them in beef cattle production.
Yep.
Okay, so these steroid implants, these are not injections we give on a daily basis or something that we feed, okay? These are actually administered in very tiny little pellets that are placed on the outside flat of the ear. Okay, and what these implants truly do and why we use them is for the overall efficiencies that we gather within our beef systems. Okay, we're able through these steroid implants that are very small dose, mind you. Even the big dosages are about 200 milligrams.
Yep.
Okay, and that lasts for well over 200 days.
Yeah, and an 800-pound animal.
Yeah, and an 800-pound animal. When we look at the dosages, it's extremely small.
Yeah, 200 milligrams is the size of an Advil.
Yeah, and I take 2 or 3 of them if I sprain my ankle
every 6 hours.
Oh yeah,
not every 200 days.
No. So this is a very small amount that lasts for a very long period of time. And so, what do we get out of it? Why do we use these?
Yep.
Okay, well, one, they're very safe, very effective. Been around since the 1950s. Okay, so we understand what they do, and that's why we continue to use them. But what we gain is our efficiencies in feed efficiency. So how much feed does it take to make a pound of gain? And also in our average daily gain, especially in our feedlot cattle. Okay, so we're gaining 10 to 15 to 20% of the of efficiency over an animal that was not implanted. So that's why we use them. Okay,
Yep.
The other thing to consider is, what are they? What are these steroid implants?
Yep.
And we really break them into 2 different types of steroid implants: estrogenic and androgenic. Okay, so these are sex hormones,
Yep.
right? These are things they aren't brand new. Okay, these have been around since the beginning of time.
While, yeah.
Okay, so the estrogenic, we're talking about estradiol. Okay, so and again, it helps stimulate some certain growths, and I'll talk about that here in a second. The other is testosterone. Okay, that's the other one. But what we generally find in these growth steroid hormone implants are trenbolone acetate. So you might see TBA, trenbolone acetate, and it's actually an analog of testosterone. So it works very well. And what these actually do is they don't create a new mechanism of growth. Okay, so these whenever we administer them, these very small dosages, they help stimulate the regular growth mechanisms inside that animal. Okay, so it's a natural process that we're taking advantage of. And what that does is we kind of change the growth curve of these animals a little bit, where it increases the efficiency of growth. So we get a bigger, more lean muscle deposition onto that carcass in a shorter amount of time with less resources.
Well, and so it's good for sustainability, it's good for environmental stewardship, it's good for feeding the world.
Very much so. And this is the one thing the one thing that we have in our toolbox that increases efficiency, decreases our footprint, and really increases the availability of that portion of beef that we can get out to the masses.
It's awesome. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the different things with steroid implants, how to administer them. Dr. A.J. Tarpoff, Beef Extension Vet here in Kansas. We'll be right back.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamandkansas.com.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with friend and colleague Dr. A.J. Tarpoff, who is our beef extension veterinarian for the state of Kansas, and been in that position now a few years after being out in practice. How are you kind of settling in, enjoying it?
You know, I really am enjoying it. It's been really nice to be involved with all the great producers and veterinarians out here in the state of Kansas. It really gives me an opportunity to get out and around the state and help a lot of people, which is it's really satisfying to have that opportunity.
Well, I know we appreciate having you as a resource to be able to call and get Dr. Tarpoff on the phone, or invite him out to your producer or veterinary meeting, and he'll do a great job for you. All right, let's talk about getting started. So we're going to bring cattle in. Someone says, hey, I'm going to start implanting calves at my grow yard. What do I need to get rounded up?
Okay, well, number one, we have to choose the right implant. Okay, so talk with your veterinarian, talk with your nutritionist, making sure everybody's on board that we're using the right product.
Yep.
Okay, because these implants are actually approved for different classes of cattle. We want to make sure that we've picked the right choice for that class of cattle, and we get realistic expectations out of it. So once we found it, all right, let's get ready. Let's get ready to go shoot side. What do we need to gather? What's our game plan? Okay, well, number one is, once we've chosen that implant, we want to make sure things stay as sanitary and clean as possible shoot side. What I like to do, if you're going to open up the packages of implants, I like to store them in a little Rubbermaid container or a little Tupperware, just to keep them dry, out of the humidity, out of the elements, keep them away from dust, and keep any splattering mud or manure that may be floating around. We keep those implants as sterile as possible. So that's with the implants. Next is, well, the administration tool, and we call it an implant gun. Okay, multiple different types of implant guns, and they all work very well, but we need to make sure that it's functional. Okay, that it's been cleaned, it's dry, it actually functions the way that it should, and making sure all the mechanisms within that gun are working appropriately, that the implants are going to be fed, and just making sure that it works.
And I'll even keep, if you can, I never throw away an old one when they give me a new one, just so that I have a backup.
Yep.
In case something goes wrong, it gets knocked out of your hand or smashed or something. But those things are pretty tough.
They are pretty tough, but I mean, think about out in the elements. If it gets really cold, the plastic gets brittle, things can break, so always have a backup on it.
Yep.
And the next thing to look at is a part of that implant gun is the needle. Okay,
Sure.
And they are big bore needles.
Huge.
And they are big bore needles that actually the implant slides through the inside. So what we want to have happen is we want to make sure that we have a very sharp, clean, disinfectant needle before we even start. If we see any burrs, anything of that nature, we want to make sure that that's taken off. Okay, they're cheap, they're readily available, they come in the implant box. Just replace the needle. That's the biggest thing, and have extras on hand, because accidents happen, things happen. Okay, so we want a functional gun, we want a nice sharp needle. What else do we need? Well, I like to carry a bucket of disinfectant, number one.
Yep.
Okay, and that'll be a chlorhexidine type base.
Yep, blue water.
Blue water.
Yep.
Okay, and if it's not a solution already, we may have to mix it. Make sure you use clean treated water to make that, not out of the lagoon or the dugout.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want clean water, clean disinfectant, and after the disinfectant bucket, okay, well, a heavy bristled brush that we may have to scrape off some manure and clean the ear. Butter knife actually works really good. Think about the caked on manure that may be stuck to the ear. We can actually scrape that off with a butter knife.
Cool.
The last thing to keep in mind is I like a disinfectant tray, and it's no less than a paint tray for a paint roller with a disinfectant soaked sponge at the end. So we can set that implant gun on the tray where the needle goes directly, lays on top of the sponge that has disinfectant in it. And if we have all that together, we're pretty much ready to go shoot side.
Well, let's take a break and then let's do it. Folks, thanks for watching DocTalk. We're going to implant some cattle when we come back.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecrop.
Did you know long-range planning through the checkoff can help keep your business profitable? To successfully pass on cattle operations from one generation to the next, it's important to promote beef and keep farms and ranches profitable. Your Beef Checkoff helps do that.
I'm Tom Perrier. Our ranch is called Dale Banks Angus. Dale Banks is not a person, but it's a place. This ranch was started by my great-grandfather. He came from northwest England, and his farm there was called Dale Banks, and so he called his ranch here in the Flint Hills Dale Banks. The beef checkoff today has fulfilled a lot of needs that our industry had over the years. We were very involved in trying to get the beef checkoff passed back in the 70s and early 80s because we saw the need then, and the beef checkoff, I think, has fulfilled a lot of those needs.
I think some of the biggest bonuses that we've gotten from the beef checkoff in the last 20 years have been twofold, both in the research phase of the industry, one being the Beef Quality Assurance Program that showed us just how much money we could capture by simply doing things like moving the injection sites from the hip and rump of the animal up to the neck, where we had less high-valued cuts. That drove millions of dollars into our industry. The other thing that our beef industry did about 15 years ago was embark on new product development, things like the flat iron steak and things that used to get ground into hamburger and other low-valued cuts today are sold for a premium, and that too, just like the Beef Quality Assurance Program, has driven huge dollars into our industry that we all get to share.
Matt's the primary driver behind the operation right now, and he's the 6th generation, and his children will be the 7th generation.
I hope our kids are better at telling our beef industry's story. I think the last several years the Beef Checkoff has shown us how to do that better. They've given us some tools to do that, so we need to do a better job of telling the wonderful story that we have, and I hope our kids can continue to do that.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. A.J. Tarpoff. He is our Beef Extension Veterinarian for the state of Kansas. Sees a lot of cattle, sees a lot of people. We're very proud to have him here at Kansas State University, and we're talking about implants. Mm-hmm. And you know, you got to set up with the implant storage, implant gun, and then the tools to clean the ears and clean our gun. Okay. So now let's kind of talk about getting started.
Well, let's get started. First is, well, we need to get the animal and we need to be able to restrain them, okay? Yep. And that all starts with how we handle these cattle, okay? We want to set ourselves up for success.
Yep.
Okay, and that all starts with our low-stress cattle handling techniques that hopefully our crews have been trained in, that we practice on a daily basis, that we are bringing those animals cleanly, efficiently through our handling facility into the catch chute. Okay, that's where it all starts. If our animals are a little bit too excited or trying to jump up over the top of each other, that's where we actually can contaminate the outside ear where we're going to place this implant. So we want to have them calm, cool, and collected until they hit that head shoot and we have proper restraint. Okay, we do need to have a head catch to make sure we can restrain those animals so we have easy access to the ears.
We've even seen some of those neck extenders on shoots to hold the head steady for implanting. It can cause some issues with getting the right injection site window, but there's some different things they can do to their chute.
There are some neck bars that kind of stretch the neck out just a hair. Some of them are on a hydraulic where you can actually slowly move them out so it holds in, and it works well for very heavy, big animals and even very small, lightweight animals. If you don't have neck bars, the other thing you can do is loosen up the side catch where cattle usually back up, and then we can tighten it back down, and all of a sudden they're very nice and tight right up against the head bars. So that's another option, given the certain facility restraints.
It's a great idea.
Yep. So after we have them properly caught, what's the first step? Well, preparing the ear. Okay. Remember, we are placing these steroid implants underneath the skin. This is just like an injection that we would give in the side of the neck for beef quality assurance reasons in the neck, but these are placed on the flat of the ear, and it's a very big bore. So we want to protect that implant from any type of contamination. So we don't want to inject through manure, very dusty hide on the outside of the ear. So we may need to prep that ear and clean that ear before we administer the implant. Okay, this is where our disinfectant bucket, our scraper, our butter knife comes in handy. If
and your brush.
And our brush. So if we've got dried or wet manure, we may want to scrape some of that off with the butter knife. We soak that brush with disinfectant and we can scrape that, usually from the top of the head down. Okay, we want to pull everything down and away from that hair because that's the way the hair grows. So we scrape that away, and now after we've cleaned it, we've disinfectant, now we can actually do it in actual implant injection.
All right, well, let's take a break because we're running up against the commercial. Let's take a break, and when we come back, you can talk about where you want to place that implant and what we're going to do. Great information, something we do every day. Don't take it for granted. Listen to Dr. Tarpoff. We'll be right back after these messages.
About 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulder sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better and didn't get better. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Got down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30, the procedure was all over, and it just kept getting better and better. And within 6 weeks, I was back digging post holes and doing the other hard work that I'd been doing before the accident. And I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
Thanks for joining me today for Boehringer Ingelheim's Cattle First. When we start to think about labels that are on bottles of antibiotics, it's extremely important that we follow them. The first thing that's on the label, what species is this indicated for? So it might be for cattle, for horses, for dogs, or cats. Once we understand the species that these products are labeled for, what's the indication? Bovine respiratory disease. Could it be for foot rot? There's a list of species, indications. After that, what's the dosage, what's the route of administration, and then what's the withdrawal time, or the time in which it's safe to take an animal to slaughter from the time in which the animal was last treated until that animal was slaughtered. So, species, indication, dosage, route of administration, withdrawal. All of these are important components on the label, so make sure that you follow them and use antibiotics judiciously. Boehringer Ingelheim's Cattle First.
Hi, I'm Kim Mandring with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
Tarwater Farm and Home is a 40-year-old local family-owned business. Clothing for work and play, seeds and feeds, boots, toys for the kids, and tools you'll need for around the house and farm. And a service department to keep them in top running order. It's a big store, so take some time to see what they have for your farm and home. Tarwater's everyday pricing is like others' sale prices. When you need it, they've got it. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook or Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. A.J. Tarpoff, and we are talking about implanting cattle. And Dr. Tarpoff has done a lot of it, both in practice and here is his job as the state beef extension specialist in the state of Kansas. And the ear is cleaned, the ear is prepped. Walk us through where do we want to place it and how we're going to do this.
Okay, so let's talk about placement. And the placement of these implants are that we have one ultimate goal. Now let's break the ear from the base of the skull all the way out to the tip. Let's break that into thirds.
Okay.
Okay, we want that implant to end up in the middle third of that ear.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's general
not
guidelines.
Against the base of the ear, not out at the end.
Correct.
Right in the middle.
If they get too close, sometimes they can get stuck in the cartilage. If they're out towards the tip, if they swing their head, sometimes we can lose those pellets.
Just pitch the implant
They pitch the implant. So we want them in the central third of the ear. Now, if you look at the ear, it also has multiple little valleys in it. Now we want that implant to end up in the central valley, down in the bottom, where it's protected, out of the way, and that's really our ultimate goal. But keep in mind, there may be ear tags, previous implants, or anything like that close by, or in a close proximity where we are trying to put our implant. So a good rule of thumb is be a finger width away from whatever obstruction is there.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So if it's an implant or a ear tag hole or something like that, but we don't want to, a lot of times we get tempted to put them on that top shelf of the ear, and that can cause some trouble with the bunk cable rubbing on it and different things like that, right?
If there's anything irritating, cattle will itch and rub. It's a normal grooming behavior. They will rub up against each other. We can actually rub and remove those implants after we implant them. So we really want that central valley where it's a nice protected area from cattle. We're protecting them from themselves.
Yep. So you're going through all the steps. You're making sure that we don't get an infection, which would be irritating.
Yep.
You're putting it in a place where they can't rub the implant out, and where they can't flick it out. So it makes a lot of sense. And you got to remember, you got two ears.
Yep.
Right.
So let's get right into administration. We picked out where we're going. I do want to bring up we have two different styles of implant guns. The first implant gun it actually has a retractable needle. Okay, so I like to think about that needle as a tunnel. We administer that needle with the bevel up. We administer that at a slight angle, get it just under the skin on top of the cartilage of the ear, place that needle all the way in.
Yep.
Once we do that, that's created our tunnel. Okay, with the retractable needle, we can pull the trigger, it automatically retracts, leaves the implant right in place. Okay, now our other type of implant gun, it does very similar, but it takes a little bit more skill on our part. Okay, we administer that needle all the way in. However, that needle doesn't retract automatically. That's where we come in. We'll slightly remove the needle, not all the way out, but just slightly, just to give enough space for that implant to start to go. And then we administer it and slide that needle out. Okay, just think about the tunnel. We don't want that implant to bunch up at the end of that tunnel. It needs space to be able to lay down flat where we have a nice straight line of all these implant pellets that line up. If we do all of that, we will decrease the chance of abscess, okay, because we've prepped that ear. We decrease the risk of bunching or crushing. Okay, that's one of our failures that we do if we implant incorrectly. We get bunching or crushing, where they won't absorb like they should. We can run into some other issues. But if we choose the right location, we do it properly, we do it cleanly, we can usually end up with some pretty good results from implanting.
Wow. Well, great information. Thanks for being with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Folks, Dr. A.J. Tarpoff. Remember, if you want to find us on DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. For Dr. A.J. Tarpoff, I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. Thanks for watching DocTalk, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.